Cast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Fisdap Tips and Tricks webinar. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone that due to the volume of attendees, all lines have been muted. If you have any questions, please feel free to send them through the chat, and we'll save some time to address them at the end of the webinar. Today's Tips and Tricks topic is the Learning Center. Our host is Kurt Van Oort, a solutions consultant who's been with Fisdap for over 4 years. So without further delay, I'll pass it off to you, Kurt.
Thanks, Haley. Do you see the Fisdap page real quick? That pop on?
See that Fisdap homepage.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. All right, welcome everybody. Settle in, get comfortable. We'll walk through Learning Center here, and in a few minutes, just want to thank everybody for stepping in and taking some time out. Hopefully these have been helpful to everybody out there, and you can review them, pass them along, and do everything else to learn a little bit more about Fisdap through these tips and tricks webinars. I'm going to walk through a few things in the Learning Center today, primarily our lab scenario bank, a test item bank that we have, and then also touch briefly on the ability to add students' National Registry first-time pass rates into Fisdap, and the importance of all of those things. So we'll step into those. I'm going to log into Fisdap here, and we'll get into those. If you do have questions, there is a chat. Feel free to send them on through, and Haley's going to monitor those, and we can go over questions at the end of this. The idea is we'll go through in about 20 minutes, and then we'll have some time at the end should anybody have any questions to go through. So let's hop into this Learning Center. And with paramedic programs, with CLAMS accreditation, scenarios are important. We've got flipped classrooms going on, and more we're moving towards a immersed learning and really get hands-on instead of having students sit in a class and listen to somebody lecture PowerPoints and everything else. Now we're getting more into scenarios. So we thought today would be a good chance to talk about the scenario bank that's in Fisdap. You access it through the Learning Center tab. I get amazed as I travel around or talk to people who are doing webinars, helping people, how many aren't aware of this yet. So that's why we thought it'd be a good thing to go over today. You access both the lab scenario bank we're going to talk about today, the test bank we're going to talk about today, and the ability to record your students' NREMT results for their first-time attempts on both the cognitive and the psychomotor test to put into Fisdap. So let's start with the scenario bank. When you click this out, what we have been doing over the last five or 6 years has been, it started off doing National Registry scenario workshops when the portfolio was coming out. Fisdap and NREMT together hosted a bunch of scenarios in different parts across the country for a number of years. And the intent behind these was to teach people how to create scenarios, how to validate them, how to run them, and really to coach them on using them. So part of that natural progression is we thought it'd be great to create a bank of scenarios that people have written at these workshops that we did, and also other ones that have been created over time. When you first come into the scenario bank, pay attention over here to the left side, the status. What this is a green check mark means that this has been reviewed to some extent. It sat in a review session where, just like we do with our item writing, I'll pop back here real quick. Another great thing to know about Fisdap, if you want to help and be part of the community, you'll see these group reviews on your main page down in the bottom left. This is the time when our testing team and educators get together with peers from across the country. They limit it to 5 or 6 because they want it to be a good meeting. They're 30 to 60-minute sessions where they're reviewing test items. If you go back a bit, we had a bunch of these where the individuals were reviewing scenarios. Through this process, we vetted a bunch of scenarios, and the reason I mention that is what the green check mark is going to mean when you're in this scenario bank. So when you're looking at the scenarios, the far left column is status. Green check mark means it's been reviewed, it's been vetted to some extent, and it's considered good. If it has this hourglass symbol, it just simply means it's been entered. No one's reviewed it. It may or may not be good. Nobody really knows. There's literally hundreds of scenarios in here. There's over 150 that have been reviewed and vetted. So these are good scenarios that you can use to do some testing with students of EMTs, paramedics, AMTs, anybody in there. One thing I want to show you too is if you click title, part of the work that we did preparing for the new Appendix G for paramedic programs is we created what we call our featured 50. And when I hit the title, it put them all in alphabetical order. and now we can start getting into the G1 through 50s. These are the 50 scenarios that have been put together by the community, by individuals that were passionate about this, and actually went through and vetted all of these through the review sessions that I just showed you, and also run them in class and see if it's taking the student down the right rabbit hole. So there's 50 made, the featured 50, and these are made with the intent to help paramedic programs meet those requirements for the new Appendix G. So there's been a lot of thought put into these. In time, we hope to build a better recall tool to, maybe pull out a scenario out of the bank based on different parameters and stuff. But for now, this is where it's at, and they're all readily available to you. Let's open up one that we can go into, and I'll show you a little bit about it. When we come into the scenarios, this pencil over here on the far right, this is what you're going to use to edit or open up one of the scenarios. When we open these up, you're going to see the format that they're laid out in. First of all, it's going to be just just a title. What is the chief complaint of this specific scenario? You can stretch these things out. This is just basic PDF type stuff. You'll see there's more information in there. So this is going to talk about moulage and props and things that are going on, things that you may need to partake in that. There's also the ability to say, by going through this scenario, we're going to cover different objectives. So when you open these up, you can see they went through and selected the objectives that this covers. This in time will also help us to have a better tool that we can create that will let you pull these out of a bank based on certain objectives and things. So it will evolve into a pretty neat deal here. Now what you'll see is this is just the base of the scenario. Go ahead and you have the ability to put in the dispatch, the age, the gender, sample, OPQRST, just all the different things that are going to involve into scenarios you'll find in here. Different vitals. As they're running through, they're going to start off with vitals, and as things change. So all this stuff, again, is put in here to try to make it easy for you to run. We're now going to come in with our primary, secondary assessments, anything else that may go in. And now we're going to get into, as they run these scenarios, what interventions are we expecting to happen? These are things that we learn in doing scenario workshops, that as we validate these, that you might think there's an awesome scenario, it's all written, it's ready to go. We go and have another team run it to see what happens to it. And we find out they didn't quite do what we thought they would do, or they went down a different rabbit trail. And so these things constantly get tweaked to come up to this process. That's why using one in our scenario bank with a green check mark, all this stuff has been done. But as these are getting made, we can actually put in and say, here's what we're expecting people to do. And you'll see that these things look very similar to how students enter data in. There's all reasons behind all of this that'll come out down the road as this evolves more. So there's going to be essential things that both BLS and ALS provider need to do based on their provider level. Important, and that would be nice if they did those things. So these are going to be the skills that we're expecting them to perform. Down here, you'll see there's also curveballs that can get put in here. What's going to be considered critical failures. And if there are reviews, it's going to have dates and times, people's names and comments that were made as these things were being tweaked throughout the process. That's just a simple glance of what it looks like. As you have your scenarios pulled up, you could export it to a PDF. It's going to say, keep these confidential. Students do not have access to these, so treat these like an exam. These are teachers' tools, and don't let students have access to these. But then this would make the PDF available, and you can go ahead and open it up, maybe laminate it, keep them in the lab, or if you have certain ones you want to use, the real good ones you like, get them laminated and just have them available for use in the classroom. And expanding these boxes to get everything exposed is important when you go to print those off. You could also open this up on a tablet or run it with a laptop or something else as well. I want to point out this button here. If you use the original iSimulate ALSI version, not the new reality yet, but the ALSI version, if you happen to use that, there is the ability to export the scenario. What this is going to do is this will create it into that format that the iSimulate needs, and then you basically take this file that it's creating, email it to your iSimulate control tablet, and now it will set up the scenario in your iSimulate product. There's also plans to advance that further down with integration between the two. But as of now, you can upload into ALSI any of these scenarios that you pick, If you want to run them on iSimulate off of PDF or from your laptop, running it, that's your choice. And you'll see there's quite a bit of details. These are a lot of fun to create, to tweak, to continue to go on. As you hear of any scenario workshops that Fisdap may be doing across the country this year, please, if you can, attend. Learn a lot about how to create these things and move on. That's about it on the scenarios for now. I want to jump back over to the Learning Center now and show you just a little bit about a test bank that we do have. You know, Fisdap, we go through and we go through the pain and the expense and the work of really creating valid exams for our customers to use in a high stakes setting. Publisher tests, quizzes, question banks, all that stuff's great for building up your foundational knowledge and everything. And we go through that extra step to make the actual exams, not just give you a question bank. But there are times, and there are people that do like to pull questions, create their own quizzes and things like that. There are questions in Fisdap, not a lot of people know that are available. These are not used in study tools. These are not used on any exams of any caliber. This is just a question bank. These questions are not, I'm not going to say they're valid, but they have been reviewed and maybe tweaked a little bit for proper formatting, and they're considered good. You know, just use them at your own risk. Like I said, I wouldn't use them necessarily for a high stakes exam, but these would be great if I want, if they just got done taking an airway unit exam and I wanted to pull up some airway questions to remediate. This is going to let me go in and choose by category level, by certification level. Right now, all that's in there is multiple choice. You could put in a keyword of some sort, and I'll leave feedback on. And then what I can do is I'm going to go in and search for EMT basic level airway questions. It's going to go through and it pulled up 64 items. So in here, I have the ability to go through and review. Of course, the asterisk is going to be the correct answer. If you feel something's incorrect, please tell us. You can put comments back and forth on these if there's anything going on. And like I said, these are not validated. They're not tracked or anything. They're just considered good. And they're available for anybody to use right from their Learning Center. I'm just going to go down to the bottom here. I'll just grab a few. And there's different options when you take these out. You can display the answers with the questions, so it would show you, right after D would be the correct answer. Or I can say put them at the end, where we just list them all at the end. And then the feedback also. If somebody did enter feedback in with the question, it can also display feedback. Once I have my questions selected that I want, I can export these. And this is just going to create like a paper quiz. So this is an instance where you could cut and paste these into your program's LMS, into Navigate 2 if you use JBL products. These are all questions that you can utilize to do things like that and go on and have access to other questions and tests. Or if you just wanted to print this off and take out the answers here, print it off, and just give a quick 10 question paper quiz. That is the Fisdap test bank. Like I said, it is available. I think it may have been hidden for a little bit. Let me show you one that comes out with feedback here. I'll just switch these up and do it different this time. So here I just switch my options, and now you see it's giving me the answer right after the question rather than at the end of the document. So this may not be one that I would give out to students. And then if there was any rationales added, it would be right after the answer. But again, that's if something typed in rationale or a reasoning that would hide behind what the correct answer is. So a great little test bank. Again, they're cleaned up. They're priced, precise. One thing we do not try to do at Fisdap is try to confuse you in questions. So you'll see there just nice little mini scenarios that you can go ahead and what would you expect. And you'll see little hints here too as to how National Registry writes questions and things like that. That's a quick glimpse into the item test bank that is within Fisdap. Now, since I closed that, I'll open it back up. I'll be right back in it. Here we go. So we got the scenario bank. You can input that into iSimulate, ALSI if you use it. We went through the test bank real quick, and I'll finish up here. Going back into my Learning Center. And now we're going to talk just a little bit about entering your students' first-time pass rates at National Registry. We do a lot of research for education at Fisdap, and a lot of it is, some of it stems around, how do students perform on National Registry in this situation. So they'll pull data within Fisdap at the Research Summit. Teams will get together and say, okay, we want to do this and see how it impacts first-time pass rate. Well, in order to do that, we can pull data based on a student or something, but we really need to know how did they perform. So there is the ability, and the more that people do this, the more it helps everybody involved in your learning center. And again, this is an instructor view. Just know that when students log in, they don't see the scenario bank, the test bank, or any of this kind of stuff. So they can't do any of this. When it comes into doing your NREMT results, it's a very simple process. Filters are in place just to help you. You'll find that probably, depending when you switch them from active, maybe you don't switch them to graduated until they pass NREMT, but however you do that, you can use your filters to find the students. And then you're simply going to go through, and they're all going to be unset, but you'll see all you're looking at is, did this student pass their written or failed or written on their first attempt? And if this person passed, I can mark them as passed. And if they failed the practical, when they went to do that, we can mark it as failed. And you can do this for each of your students. So as your students graduate, just take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, depending on how big your class is, pull them up and go through, and as they're passing National Registry and taking their attempts, and you hear back from them, please step in here real quick and get in the habit of going into your learning center, record your NREMT results, just first time, and enter this in, and it helps us all as we go about and finding out ways through research that we can help improve educational results. That's it in a nutshell. We're going to be done early today on these 3 topics. Haley or anybody else, if you're listening, did I miss anything, or do you think we're okay? And also, did any questions come in?
I don't think you missed anything. We haven't had any questions come in, but if anybody has any, feel free to send a quick note through the chat.
All right, and then while everybody's thinking, if they come through, again, very precise little tips and tricks on a few things that some people may not know about today. As you dig into these things and maybe start playing with them a little bit more and learning more about them, please send any questions you have to Fisdap support, relay them through. There's a lot of tools in here. We want to try to get better at helping everybody be aware of what's available here to help you all get better with your educational goals, and to do the best we all can to get those entry-level competent providers out there on the street. So if no questions came in, I'll be okay ending it a couple minutes early, and we can all move on about our days.
All right. Yeah, we haven't had any questions come in, so thank you, Kurt, and thank you to everyone for joining us today. We hope to have you join us for the next Tips and Tricks webinars coming up on March 18th and April 1st. To stay up to date on upcoming webinars, so to see recordings of previous webinars, you can visit go.fisdap.net/tips and tricks. And there will be a quick survey after this webinar, so please sure to let us know your thoughts and if you have any suggestions for future topics. And if you do have any questions that come up that weren't addressed today, please feel free to submit them there. Thank you, and we hope to see you next time.
Thank you all. Be safe.